Alarm ripped through CBS the moment a mysterious tape hit the censors. Sirens echoed down every hallway as screens that usually showed gentle jokes suddenly blazed with fierce political blast far, beyond anything the network had dared to air. 6 days later, the Smothers Brothers comedy hour vanished without warning. No press note, no farewell, no chance to explain. Though viewers never saw the tape, its shock waves raced across the industry. Artists squared off with nervous executives, and the very idea of free speech on American television tilted overnight. What hidden battle raged in those boardrooms? Who slammed the stop button? And what message was so incendiary that CBS hit full panic mode? To grasp the uproar, rewind to the 60s, when NBC, ABC, and CBS controlled nearly every living room. Each evening, millions of families gathered around glowing sets, watching programs trimmed to fit strict moral, political, and cultural rules born after World War II. Within that careful landscape, CBS reigned with safe juggernauts like The Ed Sullivan Show and Bonanza, yet by mid-decade the anti-war movement thundered through streets, and a restless counterculture demanded a louder voice. Younger viewers drifted elsewhere, and the network felt pressure to respond. CBS hatched a plan built on ratings fear, not artistic rebellion. Sunday nights were ruled by NBC's Bonanza, so executives needed fresh firepower fast. They chose Tom and Dick Smothers, brothers whose Smart Brother Silly Brother act had charmed smaller shows. The pair seemed harmless enough to reinvent variety TV without stirring controversy. The series debuted on 5 February 1967, and that first episode looked familiar. Catchy songs, playful chatter, and easy jokes kept everything breezy. Yet backstage, Tom Smothers plotted something bolder. Rather than act as mild distraction, he started sliding social ideas into the script. Gentle punchlines began to bite, asking viewers to question authority. While CBS chased numbers, Tom built what he called a new playground where television stared reality in the eye instead of running from it. Dick stayed cautious, playing steady host who smoothed Tom's sharper remarks. The shift unfolded slowly, just slow enough that executives ignored it at first, yet quick enough that audiences sensed electricity in the air. The tipping point neared when booking lists changed. Tom insisted on inviting Pete Seeger, the legendary anti-war voice, and hinted that even louder musicians were on the horizon. CBS felt an uneasy shiver, but for the moment the brothers still held the stage. Pete Seeger strode on stage with banjo and a warning that sliced through America's living rooms. His anti-war anthem proved Tom's playground was wide open for open rebellion. Soon Harry Belafonte, Joan Baez, Jefferson Airplane, and who followed, each wielding songs about freedom, injustice, and broken dreams, broadcast live in prime time. The music was only the first barrage. Tom and Dick hired younger writers who breathed the decade's unrest, among them bright newcomer Steve Martin and poet-guitarist Mason Williams. Sketches that once chased harmless giggles morphed into razor-sharp satire. Cheerful tunes paused for mock debates on military drafts, church influence, and civil rights. The format stayed familiar: music, chat, laughter. Yet inside every segment the content had flipped completely. Audiences felt the jolt instantly. Ratings climbed as 18 to 25-year-olds finally heard their own anger echoed on screen. Dorm rooms buzzed with lines from the show, posters of the brothers hung beside protest flyers, and station managers in the South fired off furious letters accusing the comedy hour of poisoning family values. CBS read the dueling mailbags and saw money on both sides, so the program survived, though tension thickened like wet cement. Network editors tried quiet trims, but Tom would not budge if a single line carried his message. Tapes were recut minutes before airtime. Staffers sprinted through corridors, and every Sunday felt like a high-wire act over live wires. Yet week after week the Smothers Brothers sailed on, forcing CBS deeper into the storm. Season 2 launched with even sharper teeth. Jefferson Airplane teased psychedelics during White Rabbit, while who obliterated amplifiers during my generation, sparking a brief sound blackout that left engineers sweating. Joan Baez sang for her husband, jail for refusing military duty, though her heartfelt introduction was chopped from a United States feed. Comedy joined the charge. Pat Paulson delivered spoof campaign speeches, promising, "If elected, I will build more potholes to test the patience of voters." Viewers howled, politicians blushed, and CBS wondered how long it could stay on this roller coaster. Then came David Steinberg with sermonettes that fused scripture and breaking headlines. His October 1968 riff compared biblical battles to election mudslinging, and several affiliates yanked it as blasphemy. More than 300 complaints slammed the network in a single week. Students scribbled Steinberg's jokes in notebooks. Bootleg shops swapped grainy recordings, and campus newspapers dissected every punchline. Inside CBS headquarters, gray-haired executives fretted over advertiser revolt, while younger staff whispered that history was unfolding in real time. Sponsors threatened to bail one day, then double their budgets the next, chasing the youth market they claimed to fear. Confusion reigned. The louder the applause grew, the deeper CBS blushed. New censorship rules arrived overnight. Yet stopping the tide felt like damming a river with paper. Each warning fueled Tom's resolve to push further. By late 1968, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour stood at the heart of a cultural earthquake, dazzling its young audience while rattling the very company that kept it alive. Alarm erupted inside CBS the instant an unmarked tape hit the censors. Sirens wailed through the corridors as monitors that usually showed gentle jokes suddenly flashed a blazing political blast far past anything the network had ever allowed. 6 days later, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour vanished from the schedule with no statement, no press gathering, no final bow. Viewers never saw that tape, yet its shock waves tore through the industry. Artists faced off against frightened executives, and the very meaning of free speech on American television tilted forever. What private battle raged in hidden boardrooms? Who pressed the lethal stop button? And what message made CBS bolt the door so fast? In 2008, Tom Smothers stepped into blazing stage lights to accept an honorary Emmy almost 40 years after censors killed his show. During his brief remarks, he told the crowd, "Peace is harder than war," and that single line rocketed through news outlets and timelines everywhere. 2 years later, the Television Academy welcomed both Smothers Brothers into its Hall of Fame, a long-overdue return of honor that drew rousing cheers. Reporters framed the moment as proof that time can mellow network nerves while history keeps score louder than any censor. Their fight was never only showbiz. In the early 1970s, the Nixon White House quietly dropped Tom and Dick onto its notorious enemies list. And although they were never hauled into court, the gesture proved the Comedy Hour had rattled the Oval Office, a feat few programs achieved. Jump to 2022 when the University of California at Santa Barbara announced it would receive the entire archive, scripts, master tapes, even sketches CBS once demanded destroyed. For the first time, scholars could flip through Tom's scribbled notes, read frantic network memos, and screen rough cuts that never reached living rooms. The digitization drive promised to reshape the show's reputation for a generation that only knew protest TV through clips. The collection filled rows of metal shelves, boxes stamped studio property resting beside dusty film cans. Graduate researchers gasped at drafts where punchlines were crossed out by executives ordering, "Delete immediately." Every discovery underscored how fierce each minute of airtime had been. When Tom Smothers died in late 2023, the internet erupted. Classic moments flooded feeds, and comics like Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, and Sarah Silverman praised him as a root that still feeds modern late-night satire. Proof that television grows bolder when someone dares to speak up. Today, the Comedy Hour is storming back into public memory through the unlikeliest channel, the internet. Old VHS tapes once traded in dorm rooms are now polished and unleashed on YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, and every feed that devours vintage gold, pulling in millions of curious new eyes. One immortal line, "Mom always like you best," now powers endless memes. Pat Paulson's spoof 1968 pledge to fix everything by waiting feels eerily current, and clips that spread like wildfire in today's gridlock climate. Sketches once branded dangerous are hailed as masterclasses in smart satire, proving the show ran decades ahead of its time. Meanwhile, the Santa Barbara Vault keeps revealing treasure. Documentarians sift through unaired footage, cut jokes, and blistering CBS reply letters, piecing together the daily tug-of-war behind every broadcast. Pop-up exhibits let visitors watch raw rehearsals, then read the angry notes demanding trims, so they feel the tension packed inside each laugh. Modern hosts shout their gratitude. John Oliver, Trevor Noah, and Hassan Minhaj all credit the Smothers Brothers for proving comedy can punch upward, spark debate, and still win ratings. Media panels call the show a cornerstone of critical television, where jokes launch real conversation. That legacy roared at the New York Television Festival when Forbidden Sermon finally played uncut. Young viewers gasped at its blunt honesty, amazed that network TV once carried fire this hot. Applause thundered long after the screen went dark. The brothers never labeled themselves icons. The world did that because their courage triggered tidal reactions from audiences, executives, and even governments. Their cancellation showed that 1 hour TV can jolt a nation into arguing about speech, power, and art. If this story still hits you, drop a comment, share the tale, and imagine how a similar show might shake screens right now. Untold episodes, banned scripts, and defiant stages still wait in the wings. And, like the Smothers Brothers, they refuse to stay silent.